David Miller there, 18 days in ICU in Dubbo, and David is one of many of our people grappling with the crisis. So how did it get to this? Well, this morning, New South Wales Health Minister Brad Hazzard has again blamed the Commonwealth, saying the vaccine rollout for our people was its responsibility. The Prime Minister, Scott Morrison, who's declined our request for an interview, has hit back at criticism and said the response in Western New South Wales is actually a model for other communities across the country. The Minister for Indigenous Australians, Ken Wyatt, was also unavailable to come on the program to detail the emergency response, but here's what he said in Parliament today.
I find it interesting when people talk about hesitancy not being an issue, because really what that is doing is saying that Pat Turner and I are deceiving you on what the community is saying. The community is hesitant based on the information. I have listened to media interviews. Hesitancy is an issue that we have to overcome. And our work on the number of vaccinations is increasing. We have 37% have had their first dose. 20.5% have had their second dose, so the numbers are increasing. We still have a lot of work to do.
For more on this, Labor's Shadow Minister, Wiradjuri woman Linda Burney joins us now from Sydney. Linda, thanks for joining us on The Point now. We heard from Ken Wyatt in question time there speaking about vaccine hesitancy, but vaccine hesitancy alone isn't the whole picture. Is this a case of victim blaming here?
I think it is a case of victim blaming. We just heard from the gentleman that spent 18 days in ICU. He is a perfect example of the reality of this deadly virus. It's not about blaming Aboriginal people for hesitancy, and that's why the vaccine hasn't been rolled out. Brad Hazzard is correct. The vaccine rollout and availability is squarely the responsibility of Scott Morrison and the federal government.
Well, Linda, the federal government was warned by Mari Ma Aboriginal Health Corporation in far west New South Wales in March last year that the region was unprepared for a COVID outbreak. Could the crisis in Wilcannia have been averted?
I think the crisis in Wilcannia and the Western Division of New South Wales could have been averted. The Prime Minister, by saying that this is a model for response, is talking in la-la land as far as I'm concerned. This has been a scrambled response that has been haphazard and is slowly coming together way too late. I have been speaking to people in Wilcannia today, actually, and if it wasn't for the volunteers out there, if it wasn't for what people are doing for themselves, things would be very much worse.
Back in 2015, the local community was talking about overcrowding in homes, and we're seeing now people isolating in tents. I mean, is that good enough for a first world nation?
Well, of course it's not good enough. People should not have to put tents up in their front or backyard to have the capacity to isolate. I understand that one of the challenges out at Wilcannia is, in fact, exactly what you've just said, Narelda, the fact that there is chronic overcrowding in the houses. You can't send someone that's been diagnosed with the infection back into a house, because everyone in that house will end up with the infection. There has to be the capacity to isolate. This means creating isolation hubs in towns like Wilcannia, in towns like Burke, and a whole range of other places. You know, sending the army in is terrific, but it is not the answer, and it is not the way you say that this is the model to deal with these issues when they pop up in vulnerable, remote communities like Wilcannia. There is capacity out there. There are people out there. There just needs to be some proper coordination and responsibility taken, and let's call it for what it is, I say to the federal government, it is a crisis.
Are you working with Ken Wyatt throughout this process? I mean, is he actually doing enough here? Should heads roll over this catastrophe?
Well, it's not my place to say whether or not heads should roll. Clearly, the Premier of New South Wales has said yesterday that her briefings say that things are going swimmingly out there in Western New South Wales. John Barilaro, the Deputy Premier, and the Health Minister, Brad Hazzard, said today that the vaccine rollout is the federal government's responsibility. What I do know is this, is that numbers are increasing. There may be, 10, 15, 20 people in ICU, but there are over 330 plus people in home isolation.
Linda, just finally, it was really devastating news out of Dubbo this week. It impacted all of us. Do you fear that there could be, that this loss that we've all experienced and we're all grieving, a countryman of yours on Wiradjuri country, could be the first of many deaths in this COVID outbreak? What did you know about the man we've lost?
He was a family man and well thought of in the community. I send my best wishes and deep respect and condolences to his family. I know that his passing has affected people deeply.
Labor Shadow Minister Linda Burney, thank you for your time. Well, by now, many of you